Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas. China has announced major war games around Taiwan after hitting out at a major US arms deal. The key messaging is to send out a serious warning against any push for Taiwanese independence. We're getting you the bigger picture in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, getting you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war, with Russia targeting Ukraine's power grid. A lot happening on the battlefield. Pakistan president has now revealed that when India launched Operation Sindoor, Pakistan's top leadership panicked to the point where he was advised to take shelter in a bunker. We're telling you more about this. All this and lots more coming your way. Has China started preparing for Taiwan invasion? This morning, it announced major war games around Taiwan after hitting out at a major US arms deal. China mobilized the army, the navy, rocket units around Taiwan with the aim of sending out a serious warning against any push for Taiwanese independence and external forces interfering with the self-ruled island. In fact, this is China's sixth major round of war games around Taiwan since 2022, when the then US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, remember, despite China's protest, prompting an unprecedented level of Chinese military activity around Taiwan. China's Eastern Theater Command said the exercises, dubbed Justice Mission 2025, would basically test combat readiness as well as blockade and control of key ports and critical areas. Live fire activities would take place in 5 maritime and airspace zones encircling Taiwan. Visuals released by China, destroyers, frigates, fighter bombers conducting live drills around Taiwan.
With vessels and aircraft approaching the Taiwan island in close proximity from different directions, troops of multiple services engage in joint assaults so as to test their joint operations capabilities. It is a stern warning against Taiwan independent separatist forces, and it is a legitimate and necessary action to safeguard China's sovereignty and national unity.
And now Taiwan has condemned the Chinese drills, with the government accusing China of military intimidation. Taiwan's defense ministry said it was fully on guard and would take concrete action to defend its values of democracy and freedom. Remember, China claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory and has vowed to reunite with the mainland, even if it involves using military action. Taiwan rejects China's claimed sovereignty, maintaining that only its people can decide the island's future.
We urge the Chinese authorities to exercise rational self-restraint, immediately cease irresponsible provocations, and avoid misjudging the situation and becoming a troublemaker undermining regional peace. Our government will continue to work closely with partners across the region to jointly uphold a rules-based international order and safeguard peace, stability, and security in the Indo-Pacific.
For ordinary Taiwanese, this has become somewhat of a routine. Residents in Taipei appeared unfazed on Monday morning.
I think these drills are just meant to scare us, to intimidate us. Similar drills have happened before. As ordinary citizens, I think all we can do is take care of ourselves, do our jobs well, and live our lives well. The political side of things can only be handled by Taiwan's current government and how they choose to respond.
I think their China's goal is, as they said, keep the island, not the people. They just want to save face by claiming Taiwan as part of their own country, but Taiwanese people don't see it that way. We are who we are, they are who they are. The two sides of the strait are completely not subordinate to each other.
And the latest show of force comes after a bumper round of arms sales to Taipei by the United States, which, as our viewers would recall, Taiwan's main security backer. After the military announced the war games, China's foreign ministry warned the world that external forces arming Taipei would push the Taiwan Strait into a perilous situation of imminent war. Those were the words used, but did not mention any countries by name. Beijing also warned that any attempts to stop China's unification with Taiwan were doomed to fail.
Any egregious acts that cross the line and provoke on the Taiwan issue will be met with a resolute counterattack from China, and any sinister schemes to obstruct China's reunification are doomed to fail.
Now, in recent years, China has ramped up its military intimidation of Taiwan. As per analysts, the latest drills may be more explicitly aimed at practicing how to deny foreign military access to the area. The Chinese military poster about the drills showed arrows of justice, one engulfed in flames, raining down on what appeared to be green worms on a geographical outline of Taiwan. The Chinese state broadcaster CCTV reported that a core theme of the exercises was a blockade of key Taiwanese ports. On Monday, at least 14 Chinese warships, 14 Chinese Coast Guard ships had been detected around Taiwan and its outlying islands. In addition, an amphibious assault strike group consisting of 4 ships was detected in the southeastern waters of Taiwan. 89 warplanes were detected in the skies around Taiwan. No warplanes or warships have entered Taiwan's territorial waters or airspace as of now. The U.S. believes that China may be ready to invade Taiwan by 2027. And now, with just how common these drills have actually become, the question isn't anymore about if China is preparing for war, it seems, but perhaps whether it is actually setting the stage for one already. Meanwhile, the diplomatic tempo in the Russia-Ukraine war is spread out across various positions. Talks are moving faster, positions are hardening, and both sides say peace is closer. But the gaps remain deep, to say the least. A day after the president of Ukraine met the U.S. president in Florida, the Kremlin supported Trump's assessment that a peace agreement now appears much closer. Let's play out that statement for you.
Deal, gotta get it done. Too many people dying. And I think both presidents want to make a deal.
Now, Washington has offered Kiev long-term security guarantees lasting up to 15 years. But Ukraine wants those commitments to stretch far longer, even 50 years. And Zelensky says Trump agreed to study that request. Zelensky also insisting that foreign forces on Ukrainian soil must form part of any security deal that guarantees Kiev's protection. He adds that 2 major issues still block a settlement: disputed territory and the future of the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. Moscow, on the other hand, demands that Ukrainian troops withdraw from remaining areas of Donbas still under Kiev's control. Russia holds about 1/5 of Ukraine, including Crimea, much of Donbas, large portions of Zaporizhia and Kherson, about 90% of Donbas, 75% of Zaporizhia, Kherson regions, parts in Kharkiv, Sumy, Mykolaiv, Dnipropetrovsk regions. Putin wants Ukraine to hand over 25% of the eastern Donetsk region that Russia has not been able to conquer. The US plan is to turn the area into a demilitarized and economic zone. We've been telling you about this. In fact, Kiev says it would need a referendum, but Putin refused to allow a ceasefire for Ukrainians to hold a referendum. Trump has agreed. The other issue being the future of Europe's biggest nuclear power plant near Zaporizhia, which is currently under Russian occupation. Under the US peace plan, the US, Russia, and Ukraine would run it and profit from it jointly. But Zelensky has rejected any Russian commercial involvement. The Kremlin also said that a phone call between the presidents, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, could happen soon, while Zelensky wants Kiev to host urgent meetings with European and US officials in the coming days to shape the final documents for a possible deal. So that's where things stand. But on the battlefield, Russia says its troops captured 6 additional settlements in Donetsk and Zaporizhia. Ukraine countering that, it struck a Russian oil refinery, while Moscow reports new attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure tied to defense production. Amid all of this, Odessa faces relentless pressure. The latest wave of strikes has shaken an already exhausted region. And now power shortages slash port capacity to a fraction of normal levels, creating crippling delays and insurance problems for the ships. The workers continue operating under constant threat. Missiles from Crimea arrive in seconds. Cluster munitions widen the danger zones. Russia has added jet-powered drones and new types of bombs to its arsenal, while Putin declares ambitions that extend beyond Donbass to historic Novorossiya, which includes Odessa. And as the diplomacy inches forward in this manner, the fighting on the ground continues. On to news just coming in from Moscow. The Russian foreign minister has said Ukraine had tried to attack President Putin's residence in the Novgorod region. That's the big piece of breaking news coming in. In fact, the Russian foreign minister warns that now Moscow's negotiating position would change. Lavrov has said that on December 28 to 29, Ukraine had attacked the Russian president's state residence in the Novgorod region with 91 long-range drones. Lavrov was quoted as saying such reckless actions will not go unanswered. Now, it was not immediately clear if Putin was in the residence at that time. In fact, the president of Ukraine said the accusation was a lie, adding that Moscow was preparing the ground to strike government buildings in Kiev. Meanwhile, Putin's palace in Novgorod region, remember, is his state residence. It's around 400 kilometers from the capital, Moscow. And Ukraine has been launching regular drone strikes deep inside Russian territory. We've been telling you about this. All right, so that's the big breaking news coming in from Russia, where that statement indicates what Russia's position as of now is. We just told you what the negotiating terms and the diplomatic efforts, where they stand at this point. And now with this development, it remains to be seen where things go from here. But definitely a serious statement coming in from Russia. All right, so let's just tell you first exactly about the statement that's coming in from Russia. In the statement, in fact, the Russian foreign minister has said that Ukraine had tried to attack President Putin's residence in the Novgorod region. That's the latest coming in. And the Russian foreign minister also warning that now Moscow's negotiating position would change. So that's a very significant development coming at a very sensitive time, just hours after we have seen what the meeting between the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine looked like. We just told you where things stood after that, and now the statement coming in from Russia. In fact, Lavrov goes on to say and specify that on December 28 to 29, Ukraine had attacked the Russian president's state residence with 91 long-range drones. So there are specific details in that statement coming in from the Russian minister. Not just that, Lavrov was quoted as saying such reckless actions will not go unanswered. So that's the larger message coming in from Russia, clearly, that they will not take this lightly. That's the word coming in, and also adding, in fact, let's tell you more about that statement. But as of now, not immediately clear if the Russian president was at his residence at the time. But there are specific details in that statement given out by Lavrov. In fact, even mentioning the number of drones used. So according to him, 91 of those drones were used. In fact, there is more as part of that statement coming in from the Russian minister. Let's just tell you more about what he has said. If you're just joining us, that's the big breaking news coming in with Russia's statement on what they say was an attack on the Russian president's residence. That's the claim coming in from Russia, a big one. In fact, Lavrov has said all drones that attacked the Russian presidential residence in the Novgorod region were destroyed by the Russian air defense systems. So that's more detailing in his statement, but at the same time, warning retaliation. The Russian minister has said that such actions will not go unanswered. In fact, the words used to describe the move, according to him, these are reckless actions that will not go unanswered. So that's the extent to which that statement goes. Also adding that targets for retaliatory strikes and the timing of their execution by the Russian armed forces had already been determined. So that statement is comprehensive, as you can see, and the larger message coming in from Russia is absolutely clear as well. Lavrov further saying that the alleged incident would impact Moscow's stance in any future negotiations with Kiev. So that definitely is a shift in the way the diplomatic efforts have gone so far. So that's the word coming in from Russia. It remains to be seen where things go from here, but that is a big statement coming in from Russia. Meanwhile, Russia has just taken its alliance with the Islamic Republic of Iran into the orbit with satellite launches. On Sunday, in fact, Russia sent 3 Iranian communication satellites into orbit, the second such launch since July. A Russian rocket sent the satellites to circle the Earth on a 500-kilometer orbit from the launch pad in eastern Russia. The 3 satellites, in fact, weighing 150 kilograms, the heaviest satellite that Iran has ever deployed into orbit. One of these satellites there. In fact, Quasar weighs 35 kilograms. The weight of Zafar 2 is not clear. The satellites feature up to 3-meter resolution images applicable in the management of water resources, agriculture, the environment. Their lifespan is up to 5 years, but this is not new. Russia occasionally sends Iran satellites into orbit due to its strong ties with the country. In fact, earlier in July, a Russian rocket sent Iranian communication satellite called Nahid-2 into orbit. Russia signed a strategic partnership treaty with Iran in January and had also strongly condemned the Israeli and US strikes on Iran that came during the 12-day air war in June this year, which killed nearly 1,100 Iranians reportedly. The United States has said that Iran's satellite launches defy a UN Security Council resolution and called on Tehran to undertake no activity involving ballistic missiles capable of delivering nuclear weapons. But it's also important to note here that the UN sanctions related to Iran's ballistic missile program expired in 2023. The Iran-Russia satellite came hours ahead of the Israeli Prime Minister's visit to Washington, where he held talks with Donald Trump at the president's resort in Florida. And as Washington pushes to complete the first phase of the Gaza truce, Israel is also escalating attacks in the occupied West Bank, Lebanon, Syria. As the Israeli officials suggest that another war with Iran is possible, all eyes now will be on what comes out from that meeting. But if there were any doubts, the launch also sends out a clear signal. Iran is making it known that it's not isolated and that it has powerful partners that it can rely on. The mask has slipped. What Pakistan denied for weeks, what its generals tried to bury under hollow claims of victory, now being admitted out in the open, publicly, and at the very top. India's decisive military response after the Pahalgam terror attack did not just hit terror infrastructure, it shook the very core of Pakistan's power establishment. And now the Pakistan president has revealed that when India launched Operation Sindoor, Pakistan's top leadership panicked to the point where he was advised to take shelter in a bunker. Take a look.
My military secretary was there. He came to me and said, "Sir, the war has started." I had actually told him 4 days earlier that a war was going to happen, but he came to me and said, "Sir, let's go to the bunkers."
This was, of course, not political rhetoric. This was fear inside Pakistan's highest offices as the Indian armed forces carried out precision strikes in retaliation for the cold-blooded killing of the civilians in Pahalgam. And this statement, this admission matters because for the first time, Pakistan's civilian leadership is acknowledging what India made clear from day one, that these strikes were accurate, also very symbolic. And Zardari is not alone, of course. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has also been forced to admit the truth. In his year-end briefing, he confirmed that India targeted the Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, which is one of Pakistan's most sensitive and high-profile military installations. Not just that, he acknowledged that Indian strikes damaged military infrastructure within Pakistan. This is not India saying this. Pakistan is now finally admitting and confessing. And there's more to this. Pakistan now admits that 80 Indian drones entered its airspace over just 36 hours. Despite claims of intercepting 79 of them, Pakistan concedes that one drone pierced its air defenses and struck a high-value military target. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. In the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack, Pakistan's defense minister, remember, openly admitted that Pakistan has been supporting terrorism for 3 decades as a matter of state policy. The Pahalgam terror attack took place on April 22nd when Pakistan-based terrorists targeted Hindu tourists, killing 26 people after asking about their religion. And in response, on May 7, India launched precise strikes under Operation Sindoor, targeting terror infrastructure across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And Pakistan, in retaliation, attempted attacks on Indian military bases. On May 8, 9, 10, India responded firmly to those provocations, demonstrating the readiness and the resolve of the country's armed forces. Hostilities were finally ceased following talks between the Directors General of Military Operations from the two sides on May 10, resulting in an agreement to halt military actions. However, India has always maintained that the operation is in a paused state and not fully terminated, with Prime Minister Modi having warned repeatedly that any future act of terror would be treated as an act of war. Let that sink in. Now, the narrative is also clear. India acted. India struck the terror infrastructure with precision. And Pakistan, despite its loud propaganda on global platforms, was rattled, it was exposed and forced into damage control. A quick look now at what else is coming up for you on the show tonight. Is a terror attack on the scale of 9/11 in store for the United Kingdom? We tell you why this question is being asked. Getting you the complete story in just a bit. We tell you all about Israel's laser weapon designed to shoot threats out of the sky at the speed of light. Is the world bracing for a silver crunch in 2026? We tell you all that you need to know. All this and more coming up. Is the United Kingdom heading towards a mass casualty terror attack on the scale of 9/11? Speaking to a British tabloid, The Sun, a former Al-Qaeda member who later became a spy for Britain's intelligence service, says that the UK likely hosts hundreds of sleeper agents prepared to, quote-unquote, unleash devastation whenever called upon. further claiming that the question is no longer if such an attack happens, rather it's about when. September 11, 9/11, the terrorist attack that took place in the United States on September 11, 2001. In fact, extremism has been in focus both within the UK and globally. Recently, the British government classifying the current national terrorism threat level as substantial, a threat level that, as per the British government, means an attack is likely. And while the British investigators last week convicted 2 men of planning an Islamic State-inspired gun attack targeting Jewish locations across Greater Manchester, what the investigators believe could have been one of the most devastating terror attacks ever carried out in Britain. Similar to the former MI6 spy's warning, the director of MI5 has also recently warned that the Al-Qaeda and Islamic State are becoming more ambitious, taking advantage of instability globally to gain firmer foothold. There have been several ISIS-linked incidents across the world. Just this month in Sydney, remember, gunmen opened fire during a Hanukkah celebration, killing at least 15 people, injuring more than 40. While in Syria, an ISIS gunman ambushed US personnel, killing 2 American soldiers and an American civilian interpreter, and injuring several more. US forces killed the attacker and launched large-scale retaliatory strikes against ISIS positions. Bangladesh's election season heating up, and at the center of the political churn is the familiar surname Rahman. After Tariq Rahman made a comeback after 17 years in exile and will be contesting from the Dhaka 17 constituency, his return is not just a personal homecoming, but a watershed political moment in a country still recovering after the dramatic ouster of Sheikh Hasina. And as thousands took to the streets of Dhaka to welcome Tariq Rahman, the spotlight also shifted to the residents at 196 Avenue, the political address synonymous with the Zia Rahman legacy. But amid the celebrations, one figure quietly began drawing national attention: Zaima Rahman, the daughter of the BNP chief Tariq Rahman, granddaughter of 2 towering figures of Bangladeshi politics, former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia and former President. In fact, she is a barrister trained in London, built a professional identity far from Dhaka's politics, has never held a formal party position or contested an election. Today, but she is firmly in the political spotlight. She first entered the national conversation in 2021 after the derogatory remarks made against her by the then Awami League minister, Murad Hassan. The controversy spiraled, forcing Hassan's resignation and triggered legal action against him. That episode marked her unintended political debut. Her transition from being a public figure to a political player came after the student uprising in 2024. She has increasingly been seen accompanying and representing her father at key engagements. And now comes the most crucial development. Bangladesh's Election Commission has approved Zaima Rahman's inclusion in the voter list. She is registered in the Dhaka 17 constituency. Fingerprints and iris scans have been submitted. In Bangladesh, voter registration is mandatory for contesting elections, which now brings us also to the question dominating the political discourse. Will Zaima Rahman have a role in the upcoming elections? For the BNP, she represents something a rare, possible bridge between legacy and renewal, youthful, internationally educated, largely untouched by the corruption scandals that have long haunted the party in a way. She could inject fresh appeal into the organization. At the same time, her rise revives an old debate. Is this renewal or is this dynastic politics all over again? The Zia Rahman family has defined Bangladesh's opposition politics for decades. Tariq Rahman himself remains a deeply polarizing figure associated with allegations of corruption, abuse of power, terror links during the BNP Jamaat coalition years. If Zaima steps into the electoral arena, she will inherit not just the political legacy, but also its baggage. Now, for now, the BNP is silent on her electoral ambitions, but the signs are unmistakable. The timing and appearances, the voter registration, all pointing to careful political positioning of the Zia Rahman family. On to North Korea now. Kim Jong-un has conducted another successful missile test. North Korea's state news agency has released fresh footage of the test, showing a missile blowing up a building that was targeted. Pyongyang reportedly launched 2 long-range cruise missiles to showcase its combat readiness. The country released images of truck-mounted rockets being fired from a bridge, reports saying they took off from the Sunan area near the capital, Pyongyang. The test was conducted at about 8 a.m. local time on Sunday, and after that, a missile was photographed approaching the test target, which seems to be an empty building on an island. The target was located in the Yellow Sea to the west of the Korean peninsula. The visuals released by North Korean state media showing a direct hit. The latest test comes just days after North Korea released this footage. That's Kim Jong-un with his daughter and heir apparent, reportedly, inspecting a massive submarine. Pyongyang says it's a nuclear-powered submarine set to be capable of launching surface-to-air missiles. North Korea has indicated that it plans to arm it with nuclear weapons. And speaking of weapons, North Korea also released photos of Kim Jong-un walking through a missile factory floor. He was shown reportedly inspecting munitions, weapon components. He declared that the country will continue to develop missiles for at least the next 5 years. So that's the message. And the latest display is also coming just weeks after US President Donald Trump gave South Korea approval to build its own nuclear submarines. Pyongyang calls Seoul's submarine efforts an offensive act, which threatens North Korea's security. North Korea also slammed the recent joint military drills by Japan, South Korea, and the United States. The air drills, remember, involved American B-52 bombers flying with the Japanese fighter jets over the Sea of Japan early this month. Pyongyang said the drills undermined regional stability. Reports saying that the latest cruise missile tests were a message directed towards all 3 rivals. While the North Korean state media did not mention how far the missiles flew, Arrow-type cruise missiles have a range of about 2,000 kilometers, and that means all of South Korea is within their range. And so are some American bases in Japan. Kim Jong-un said the latest missile test gave him great satisfaction, calling it a responsible exercise of the right to self-defense and war deterrence. Israel has moved a laser weapon designed to shoot threats out of the sky at the speed of light, from the testing field to full deployment. Israel's defense ministry says it has delivered the first operational iron beam laser interception system to the Israel Defense Forces, effectively signifying that the weapon is ready for combat use. According to Israel, the new weapon does not replace the Iron Dome or the country's other missile shields. Instead, it strengthens the overall network, tackling smaller rockets, mortars, and drones, so the heavier interceptor systems can focus on larger, more dangerous targets. How exactly does the iron beam work, though? It operates as a high-energy 100-kilowatt class laser. It tracks incoming aerial threats across short and medium distances and burns through them within seconds. Because it fires light rather than missiles, the system carries virtually unlimited shots, costing only a fraction per interception and reducing the risk of debris falling on populated areas. The weapon has been designed to be integrated into Israel's multi-layered air defense grid, meaning it can work alongside the Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow systems. However, this weapon has a major limitation. Lasers struggle in poor visibility, including dense clouds, smoke, or heavy rain, conditions that reportedly can weaken performance. Even with that drawback, its speed advantage is enormous. Israel claims that the Iron Beam can engage threats almost immediately after launch, often even before they cross into Israeli airspace, and it can try again quickly if a first strike misses. During testing, in fact, the system reportedly destroyed rockets, mortar rounds, and unmanned aircraft. Israel's defense minister called the handover of the weapon historic, saying it marks the first time any country in the world has brought a high-power laser interceptor to operational maturity. The new weapon is expected to be part of the Israeli Air Force. Israel has named the weapon in Hebrew, honoring the IDF captain, in fact, a commando officer killed fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon in 2024. Israel's defense ministry says the countries including the US, the UK, Russia, China, Germany, Japan are developing laser defense systems, but claims that Iron Beam stands alone as the only laser system to move beyond demonstrations and into active military service. Our next story comes from India, the national capital continuing to make headlines for its toxic air. If you stay in Delhi, you are living through a nightmare that urgently needs to end, but just continues to drag on day in and day out. Delhi's air quality worsened to the severe category. The pollution and dense fog cover significantly impacting visibility, daily operations across the national capital. According to data from the Central Pollution Control Board, several areas recorded AQI readings exceeding 400. But then what's the way out? Let's just tell you the story of one corporate executive who has decided to quit his job because of pollution. Rajkumar Bafna, the president of finance at a pharmaceutical company, has reportedly stepped down from his position. You know what he cited as the reason? The severe air pollution in Delhi, reportedly. Clearly, things have reached this point. And in his resignation note, reportedly, the executive said that because of Delhi's pollution levels, he was resigning from his role and asked to be relieved at the earliest, offering support during the transition if required. The company reportedly said it was saddened by the decision, but understood the circumstances, acknowledging reportedly that the health concerns made it impossible to convince him to stay on. That is how urgent and serious this crisis has become. Think about it. But then the question remains, hanging in that toxic air, why should people have to resort to such urgent measures? Quitting a job because of the air crisis and the repeated failures? That's a horrific reminder of just how far things have gone and a crisis that continues to haunt the people of Delhi. The recent US airstrikes have hit suspected Islamic State-linked fighters in Nigeria's northwest, signaling a sharp escalation in a conflict. In fact, the Nigerian military reportedly has struggled to contain it. But who exactly are these militants? Washington says they operate in Nigeria's Sokoto state and targeted civilians, including Christians, in brutal attacks. Intelligence officials identify the fighters as members of a network known locally as Lakurava, a group that lives in remote camps near the Niger border. According to reports, they move with military-style weapons, wear camouflage, and have operated quietly for years in parts of northern Nigeria. Analysts say that many of these fighters come from the broader Sahel region, particularly Niger and Mali, and have blended into Nigeria's border communities. The US and Nigerian authorities describe them as aligned with Islamic State factions in the Sahel region. Even though the Islamic State leadership has reportedly not formally claimed them, Nigeria already faces multiple extremist threats. In the northeast, an Islamic State offshoot evolved from Boko Haram, but Lakurava, linked to what some call the Islamic State Sahel province, reportedly has grown more aggressive in the northwest, attacking villages, confronting security forces across the Nigerian states of Sokoto and Kebbi. Security experts believe the US strikes likely targeted Lakurava cells that expanded after political turmoil in neighboring Niger in recent years disrupted joint border operations. The group has reportedly tightened its grip on stretches of rural territory and increased the cross-border movement. Israel's move to recognize Somaliland has sparked strong international reactions and heightened tensions in the region. Somaliland, which is a self-declared region that broke away from Somalia in 1991 and has never been recognized by the international community, it possesses its own government, army, passport, currency, but remains officially part of Somalia. Israel's decision to recognize Somaliland comes amid rising regional tensions in Yemen, where the Houthi rebels have targeted international shipping lanes in the Gulf of Aden over the past 2 years. The Houthi movement has issued a warning that any Israeli presence in Somaliland will be considered a military target. The rebels stated that such presence constitutes aggression against Somalia and Yemen. It also poses a threat to regional security. Somalia has condemned Israel's recognition, calling it an unlawful violation of the country's territorial integrity. The Somalian Prime Minister's office stressed that Somaliland remains an integral part of Somalia and reaffirmed that it will not allow the establishment of foreign military bases or arrangements that could import conflicts into the region. Now, this decision has drawn widespread international criticism. Just look at that. Countries including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Qatar, Iran, Turkey, Pakistan, Libya, Nigeria, along with international organizations, have condemned Israel's action, calling it a serious threat to international peace and security and a violation of international law. It also prompted an emergency meet in Cairo on Sunday, where the Somalian ambassador described the recognition as an act of aggression.
The Israeli occupation government's announcement of its alleged recognition of the northwestern region of Somalia, the so-called Somaliland, is an act of aggression and provocation utterly unacceptable. It constitutes a blatant and unprecedented violation of international law.
Somaliland's strategic importance cannot be understated. It sits opposite Yemen along the Gulf of Aden, stretching along hundreds of miles of coastline and providing access to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a critical maritime choke point through which a significant portion of trade between Asia and Europe passes en route to the Suez Canal. The region also links strategically to the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. So that's how important it is. Israeli think tanks have noted that Somaliland could serve as a logistical and strategic outpost to monitor military developments in Yemen and to support international operations against threats in the region. However, Israel has expressed its recognition as a diplomatic move, and the nature of any future presence or activities remains undeclared. For generations now, the sound of trams has been part of Kolkata's identity. They are slow, they are old, but for many, they are irreplaceable part of Kolkata's very identity. And now the tram network has shrunk to just 2 routes, and with its dwindling feet, Kolkata's tram-facing a rather uncertain future. And the city faces a question: should its trams be preserved or should they be erased? In September 2024, West Bengal's Transport Minister, in fact, announced plans to decommission the tram system, the oldest in Asia and the last in India. And the minister cited worsening traffic congestion, while the government proposed retaining a short heritage route. The decision sparked widespread dismay, leading to a court battle as residents and the heritage preservationists pushed to save the trams. Listen to this.
It's very sad. It's outrageous what's been happening since 2016 to our beloved tramways. When over 450 cities worldwide are opting for tramways, when they're bringing it back, we in Calcutta are throwing it into the gutters and refusing to upgrade the tramways and outright, saying that the trams of Kolkata should be wiped out.
Once operating across with 52 routes in the 1970s, the tram network has been drastically reduced to just 25 in 2015, now only 2 remaining, both of which activists fear may also soon disappear. Often seen crawling through the heavy traffic. A ride now costs 7 rupees, cheaper than a bus fare, and mostly attracts those willing to trade speed for a slice of nostalgia. For many, the trams are more than just a form of transport. They represent the city's history and sense of self.
I have seen a lot of changes. First, when I first joined in the 90s, there were 340 trams running in Kolkata. Gradually, the number has reduced to 7 to 8 trams.
Scrapping the tram system is not only short-sighted, but also a setback for many and for environmental sustainability, as these electric vehicles do provide an eco-friendly alternative to Kolkata's pollution-heavy transport options. Not just that, trams offer a cheaper and more energy-efficient alternative to electric buses as well. But then with the constant decline of the tram system, only one depot remains operational in Garyahat, prompting the Calcutta Tram Users Association to take the fight to court now. The issue is before the Calcutta High Court, which has formed an advisory committee to explore ways to restore and maintain Kolkata's tram services.
I love my trams, and I don't know what will happen to me if someday trams really leave the city, because I love my trams more than myself, because I feel this to be a part of my life, a part of my family. So it's very important for me to see the trams every day. Like if it disappears, so it will be like there is a part of my body left me.
And for now, the trams continue to run, but how long will Kolkata keep seeing this iconic symbol run on the city streets remains to be seen. A medical routine turned into a biological mystery that defies the laws of nature. Deep within the veins of a healthy woman, scientists have made a discovery that challenges just about everything we know about human identity. Let's tell you about this chilling case of a woman living with genetically male blood. Take a look.
A mystery straight out of science fiction, only this one is real. A 35-year-old woman in Brazil went in for routine genetic testing after a miscarriage, and the results stunned her doctors. Her blood showed male chromosomes. The lab thought it was an error, but repeating the test confirmed the same bizarre truth. Inside her veins flowed the genetic code of a man. Physically, she was every bit female: uterus, ovaries, normal hormone levels, regular menstrual cycles. Nothing about her looked unusual. Yet her blood told a different story, one that began before her birth. The clue lay in her forgotten twin, a brother who never survived to share life outside the womb. Doctors discovered her condition was chimerism. It's a rare condition where a single organism contains 2 or more genetically distinct cell lines from different zygotes, essentially having different DNA sets within one body. In her case, blood stem cells from her twin brother crossed through the placenta in the womb and took root in her bone marrow. Those cells never left. For 35 years, they silently pumped male-coded blood through her veins. The implications are huge. Could others unknowingly carry DNA from vanished siblings? What does this mean for genetics, identity, and even forensic science? Scientists are now racing to understand how common this might be and what it means for medical practice.
Cosmetic injections are marked as routine beauty fixes, but according to reporting by the Times of London, they are leaving some women hospitalized and, in rare cases, fighting for their lives. The Times reports that hundreds of women in the UK have come forward with claims of severe illness after anti-wrinkle treatments, including cases of a